Muchas gracias por recibirnos, señor Assange. Vamos a aprovechar antes de empezar para saludar por si acaso hay alguien escuchando esta entrevista, porque he visto tanta policía alrededor de la Embajada de Ecuador que no me extrañaría. ¿Cree que alguien puede estar escuchándonos?
Well, of course they are. I mean, that's their job.
Lleva usted casi un año recluido en esta Embajada de Ecuador en Londres. ¿Cómo está?
I'm fine. Interestingly, there's often an attempt by some journalists who seem to want to hear that I am suffering terribly. But of course, I am doing the work of my life, so it is quite satisfying, actually. Even in very difficult circumstances, it is quite satisfying.
¿Usted es partidario de la transparencia radical?
Well, what does radical mean? It depends on where you are as to whether something is radical.
Transparencia total.
We already have total and utter transparency, and that is almost everything everyone does is on the internet.
Yo me refería a transparencia hacia el ciudadano.
I know what you're referring to. What I'm saying is already we're at the position where the most powerful organizations in the world are able to peer in to the lives of all people because everything significant that we do is on the internet. Our emails, our communications, our business transactions, our aeroplane tickets, flights, our bank transfers, etc. All the information is going up to those people who already have enormous power, spy agencies and their contractors. And therefore the only way of balancing this is for information to also flow the other way and for it to flow laterally.
¿Usted no envía ningún email? ¿Nunca?
Not directly, through my lawyers. But for me, everything I say over email is something that can be used in espionage prosecution. So we have to be quite careful. Email and SMSs are the least secure of all the communications mediums.
Yo vengo de un país, de España, en el que no tenemos, por ejemplo, ni ley de transparencia. ¿Qué le parece?
In relation to the United States, you go, well, the United States has got a transparency law, but look at all the abuses it conducts. Of course, it's finding ways now to make everything classified and to hide everything from the public.
Para usted, las leyes de transparencia, a veces los países, los gobiernos de los países las utilizan como coartada.
Very, very, very frequent. If we look at the UK, when people wrote requests to UK government departments under the transparency law saying they are horrified that such a law exists, and it's quite funny to see the responses. What? People have rights to do that. And they're very, very surprised. And finally, they then understand, in fact, that there is such a law, and then they tend to comply with it very well. But then within a couple of years, they work out how they can twist the law and use this exemption. For example, we also made an application on the police here in Britain. And of course, you know, the government has admitted that they've spent $4.5 million as of the beginning of this year just to surround this embassy with police. But they won't hand over any documents under the Freedom of Information Act because they say it concerns an investigation. Well, there is no investigation.
¿Usted no cree que si los estados tuviesen una transparencia total serían ingobernables?
That needs to be applied on a case-by-case basis.
O sea, que usted le pone también límites a la transparencia.
Not restrictions on transparency. This is not the default. The default must be that the state is completely transparent to the people, but the state may, in limited cases, apply to withhold information from the people for a limited period of time.
¿Se pueden hacer públicas informaciones que pongan en peligro la vida de terceros? Se lo digo por esta filtración que hizo Wikileaks, donde ustedes filtraron los nombres de fuentes diplomáticas junto a decenas de miles de cables. Y el cuerpo de la información dice que el Departamento de Estado americano y grupos de defensa de derechos humanos temían que la revelación de estas fuentes podían poner en peligro a estas personas. ¿Cree que esto es una imprudencia?
Well, it's an absolute lie and an absolute propaganda disgrace. And I am so pissed off about this. Let's look at the reality. There is not a single claim by any government, including the US government, that any information that WikiLeaks has released in the past 6 years has ever resulted in physical harm to even a single person in any country in the world. So this is just like weapons of mass destruction. This was a fabrication constructed out of nothing.
¿El límite para publicar una información es cuando uno cree que puede estar poniendo en peligro la seguridad de un Estado? Por ponerle un ejemplo concreto, imagínese que usted tiene entre manos una información que piensa que si igual la publica, un grupo terrorista puede tener una información privilegiada que le permita hacer un atentado contra ese país. ¿Usted lo publicaría?
What is national security? I mean, it refers to, in essence, a particular sector of the economy. The national security sector of the economy. Those influence groups, those arms manufacturers, those generals, those bureaucrats who are all prospering and profiting from national security. So when someone says, oh, I believe that affects national security, what they mean is, I believe that that affects a very large and powerful interest group that will attack back. In the United States, right now, there are over 5 million people with security clearances, over 1 million people with top secret security clearances. The majority of the people with top secret security clearances, who do they work for? The CIA, the Pentagon? No. They work for private military organizations in the United States. This is one of the ways that the United States government has worked out how to get around the Freedom of Information Act. You just hire Lockheed Martin or SAIC or Blackwater to do all your dirty stuff. And it's a private company, so the Freedom of Information Act doesn't apply. So it's actually quite important that Spain try and get some components, not necessarily all, but some components, so that when a private company does work for the government, is commissioned by the government, then the Freedom of Information Act applies to the private company.